Yo, what's up? This is Two Bums in a Pod. We're the Bums. Grant Cohn, Ryan Sakamoto. And if you don't know, Eric Armstead named us this affectionately, maybe. I don't know. Are we best friends with Eric Armstead? Possibly. Sorry we're late. It's my fault. There's construction next door, and I had to move all of my home studio from my bedroom to my living room, which was 10 feet. So that's the problem. Now we're going to talk Niners. I haven't had Ryan on my show for a while, but those of you who know me also know Ryan. Ryan's an OG. He covered the 49ers from 2012 to 2018, if I'm not right, if I'm not mistaken. He was in the locker room. He knows the players. He did everything I did. We've been talking Niner football in the Niners media room since forever. And we were like, hey, we should do a podcast, bro. So we're doing a podcast. I wanted to bring Ryan on just to pick his brain because that's what I normally do. I don't see him too much. Let's start with the Fred Warner extension. I know you've been talking about it all offseason. It's not really a topic on anyone's minds, but you've been banging it. So tell me what's on your mind with this one.
Back on November 3rd, I put out a podcast and I said, Fred Warner's do a front loaded deal. And then people were saying, well, no, he's still under contract. I was like, well, usually you extend the player the year before he hits that last year of his rookie deal, because then you're fighting for his services once he hits free agency. When you look at how Fred Warner was playing the majority of the last 2 years, he was outplaying Bobby Wagner, and Bobby Wagner was the gold standard at middle linebacker for the majority of the years prior. So when you see a guy like Fred Warner outplaying Bobby Wagner, and I grade in my grading system, I have a grading system, and I grade every single snap that each of those played, and Fred Warner just above and beyond better than Bobby Wagner, and it comes down to him having the edge in the curl hook defender zone coverage. And when you take that into account and then you formulate your grades and then you look at it for what it really is snap by snap, and he's outplaying Bobby Wagner for the last 2 years, and Bobby Wagner is the highest paid middle linebacker, getting paid $18 million a year, and Fred Warner is getting paid less than $1 million a year. You're $17 million times 2, which is $34 million overdue. So he's due for a front-loaded deal. He's been basically overperforming his contract, and it's time for the Niners to pay up.
Okay, so do you think they will pay up, or will they be like, ooh, 20? How was it? 20 million? Is it going to be 18, 19, 20, 21?
I think it's going to be 18 to 20.
Okay, so like more than Armstead.
Oh yeah,
more than everyone on the team except for the quarterback. Are they going to balk, or are they going to have a disagreement over like $2 million a year?
Dude, it could be the same situation as a DeForest Buckner deal. Yeah, and I said that right after too. That podcast I put out, I said, don't be surprised. And people were like, oh my gosh, this is clickbait. And then what's happening now?
Yeah.
How come Fred Warner hasn't been given a contract extension now? Like, what's taking so long? My thinking is they're trying to slow play this like a game of poker and be like, oh, we're the decreased salary cap, man. Like, we don't have money, but we want to pay you. No.
You're our priority. It's just that we're not doing it yet.
So how big of a priority are you? Because when he talks, BS walks. We all know the saying. So it's like at some point, Fred Warner has to put his foot down and be like, hey, I don't want the Buckner treatment. Either you pay me or someone else will.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about trade scenarios in a little bit. But when Peter King floats Fred Warner in a potential 7-for-1 deal for Deshaun Watson, if I were Warner or his agent, I'd be like, who is Peter King talking to? Is this actually going to happen? Because Peter King just wouldn't just throw that out there. He's the kind of guy who uses background information to make informed opinions and guesses and stuff like that. So I don't think it's out of the question. If the Niners feel like they need to put together some home run package to get Deshaun Watson, maybe Warner goes in it, especially if they feel like the alternative is paying him $20 million a year. Because their logic with Buckner was, we love you, man, but we're not going to pay a defensive tackle $21 million a year unless his name is Aaron Donald. And they could say the same thing. We love you, Fred Warner, but we're not going to pay a middle linebacker $20 million a year unless he's what? Unless he's Patrick Willis, unless he's someone we haven't seen so far. I think they could do it.
Yeah, no, and exactly, you hit it right on the nail. And I put that on my podcast in a potential Deshaun Watson deal. If he were to come to San Francisco, I said you have to give up a core player because draft picks are no guarantee.
Right.
If Nick Caserio is going to leverage this trade, he wants something in return to where the media and the fans can have a ray of hope with, because you want to get something in return for a top 5 franchise quarterback. Yeah. And Fred Warner or Nick Bosa would be that guy. Now, would I make that move? Absolutely not. But that's something that Nick Caserio and John Lynch would have to discuss behind closed doors.
And again, to me, what happened with Buckner was the Niners were willing to pay him more than Armstead, probably 18, maybe 19 million a year. But I think the Niners just fundamentally didn't want to give more than 20 million to a defensive player who wasn't an edge rusher. I think that's basically their attitude. Unless you're a quarterback or an edge rusher, we're not going to pay you more than $20 million a year. So what if Warner wants $20 million a year? What if the Niners say, we'll give you 18 and Warner says, no, I want the 2. I want the 2 in it, just like Buckner did, period. Yeah. I'm that good. Would they break up over that? I mean, they did with Buckner. I feel like it's worth at least monitoring.
I think it would. You want to know my honest opinion?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
I think if I'm Fred Warner, there's a reason why Fred Warner's dad follows me and like my podcast on they better resign Fred Warner before it's too late. And he said, great stuff, brother, with a thumbs up. Like you don't think they're talking? You don't think I'm in the know?
And if the Warner camp was confident a deal was going to be done soon, his dad wouldn't be on social media pumping up stuff like that. It's like they're trying to speak it into existence. Honestly, why isn't it done already? I'm sure if Warner and the Niners could agree on a number right now, they would have. So to me, this is the kind of thing that's either going to come down to the wire like Kittle, like right before training camp starts, or they trade Warner in some shocking move right before the draft to get like another pick that they could package to move up for quarterback or something like that. You know, if he could be the magic piece to get the quarterback. It could be, because I don't think they want to trade Nick Bosa. I don't think they want to trade Nick Bosa. I don't think they want to trade George Kittle. Those guys are like the face of the franchise. And even though Fred Warner is the leader of the defense, he's not exactly, they haven't promoted him like that.
They should.
But they didn't promote Buckner like that either. I wonder.
Dude, it's so sad to see that. And you got to look at it from a locker room dynamic, right? We've been in that locker room. We've been in there. We know what players talk about. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'll tell you this right now. I still keep in touch with a lot of players and coaches, right? So they're still shook, surprised, and shocked that DeForest Buckner was traded. I actually spoke to one coach 2 weeks ago, and he told me, he's like, man, I still can't believe that they traded away the best defensive players. Like, I don't care if we got draft capital in return.
Yep.
Don't trade your best defensive player. You don't do it. And he said the
never missed a game, was the leader. I mean, he was everything you wanted from your best player. Everything you wanted.
He's the engine that made everything go, because everything starts up front, and he took on the double teams.
Yes.
I don't know.
Real quick, I need to address the elephant in the room. Yes, I'm babyface today. I was going to shave the way I normally do with the razor thing, the wall thing, the W8, but it broke midway through, and I was faced with a dilemma. Do I go on with Ryan with half a shaved face, or do I just shave the rest of it? I haven't done this since I was a kid. I feel like I look like I'm 19 years old. I just needed to say that. Yes, this was not the plan. But you know what? I'm 33 now. I guess maybe I can pull it off. Let's switch topics. Let's talk about the Peter King stuff, the trade scenarios for Deshaun Watson. I'll just say it real quick. It was a first this year, a first next year, a second next year, a third this year. McGlinchey, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Fred Warner for Deshaun Watson. What did you think of that proposed deal?
7-for-1 deal. No, it's a no-go. Anytime you include a deal, and you just echoed it earlier, so I'm going to piggyback on what you just said, Grant. Anytime Fred Warner, George Kittle, or Nick Bosa are involved, I'm hanging up the phone. I'm like, sorry, bro. The joke's on you, bro. This ain't April Fool's, bro. I'm out. I'm serious, man. And and you got to look at it from a player's perspective, right? If you get rid of any one of those foundational core players, what kind of message does that send to the rest of the locker room? The better you get, the more tradable you are. Right.
And you do it with Buckner, you do it with Warner. Now it's like telling people, really, if you want to stay on the Niners, your best bet is to underperform until your contract year.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the kind of guys they like.
Yeah, don't be an all-pro. Just be a borderline Pro Bowl player, and then we can pay you less.
Be Jimmy Ward. Don't be Fred Warner or DeForest Buckner. Yeah, you're right. What is the message there? Yeah. The reason I'm not into it is, I mean, if I were to trade Warner, Kittle, or Bosa, I would turn them into, I wouldn't go 1-for-1. I wouldn't go 3-for-1. I would turn Bosa into multiple top 10 picks. I would turn Kittle into multiple top 10 picks. That way I have a chance to actually win the deal. If you're trading 7 assets for 1, you're going to lose that deal. And it's like, it's never worked out. You can't show me one team that did something like that, 6-7 assets for 1 player, and that was the catalyst for them to win a Super Bowl, or that they won a Super Bowl anytime near after that. It just doesn't happen. And like, everyone remembers the Herschel Walker trade.
I was going to say, yep.
All those draft picks for a running back. Well, people could say, well, he was just a running back. This is a quarterback. Still, that was before the salary cap. Mm-hmm. That was back when draft picks weren't as valuable because you could just pay as much as you needed to pay.
Right.
Now with the salary cap, I mean, draft picks are the lifeblood of your team, especially if you're spending $35 million a year on a quarterback, Deshaun Watson, in 2022 and beyond, and plus all the money you're spending on Kittle, on Armstead, on Ford. You need lots of draft picks to fill in the gaps in your team, and the Niners won't have it. I just don't think it works. I think it doesn't make sense to trade away a ton of picks in the salary cap era. That's what you want those picks.
Well, absolutely, Grant. You hit it right on the nail. And then decrease salary cap, the draft picks, like you said, are even more valuable, man. It's like you leverage the cap that way. That's how you manipulate the cap.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been talking about this on my channel with callers and stuff, but it's like, yeah, Watson's great, but he just went 4-12. So clearly he needs some type of support structure. And to just trade it away to get him is like, well, why are you so confident that's the way to go?
Right.
Where's the evidence that that's the way to go? This guy he couldn't win a Super Bowl making $4 or $5 million a year on Houston with JJ Watt and DeAndre Hopkins. And now you're going to gut your team to bring him on and make him do something he hasn't done yet. Yeah. So I didn't like that. I was thinking, first of all, McGlinchey has no trade value. Put in Javon Kinlaw instead, but 7 assets for one.
Grant.
Does McGlinchey have trade value? Does he have trade value? I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, forget Deshaun Watson for now. Let's talk Kirk Cousins, because that was the other thing Peter King said. He said it was a 3-way deal with the Niners sending Jimmy G to Houston,
right?
A first-round pick,
right?
To Houston, Minnesota sending stuff to Houston, Houston sending Deshaun to Minnesota, and Minnesota trading Kirk Cousins to the Niners. So essentially, for the Niners, it's the 12th pick and Jimmy G for Kirk Cousins. What do you think?
Correct.
What do you think?
I think it's a realistic trade that would realistically happen because Kyle Shanahan's affinity and love for Kirk Cousins has been well documented.
Terrifying.
Would I make that move? No. But I mean, again, I'm not the GM. I'm not Kyle Shanahan. Ultimately, their decision is the one that matters. And if you're looking at it from a realistic standpoint, I can see how it's a win-win-win for all three parties because Deshaun Watson goes to the Vikings. The 49ers get the quarterback that Kyle Shanahan wants and covets and then salivates over. I mean, it's like Kirk Cousins. He goes through this. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, dude, we get it. and then the Texans get valuable draft capital. So by giving up again, like you said, it goes back to draft capital. Nick Caserio wants draft capital among anything else. And, you know, when he can get draft capital like that, you're basically putting yourself in a really good position for the years ahead.
Yeah. Look, what is Kirk Cousins? There's a little bit of an echo. I'm gonna mute you while I do this, and I'll put you back on. A little bit of an echo. Oh wait, hold on. No, I don't hear it anymore. I don't hear it. It's gone. Okay. So with Cousins, it's like, okay, he's 32 years old. He's not mobile. He's never accomplished anything when it matters ever. He's put up a bunch of good numbers on teams that went like 8-8, 9-7. He's won one playoff game. I just feel like he's never done anything. He's kind of a dinosaur in the sense that like he gives you nothing off script. There's no improvisational ability about him. He's not mobile. I mean, can he make the throws? Yes. Can he execute? Yes. Is he decent? Yes. Is he really freaking expensive? Yes. You have to pay him a lot of money. Not so much this year, but next year. It's fully guaranteed. Right. And people don't even like him. His teammates routinely make fun of him and call him out. If you want a quarterback like Andy Dalton, excuse me, I just keep calling this guy. If you want a quarterback like Kirk Cousins, why don't you just sign a guy like Andy Dalton? What's the difference? Or draft a guy like Kyle Trask. What's the difference? You don't need to spend $25 million a year plus a first-round pick to have a guy like Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins. Are you kidding? No. What is that? If they trade a first-round pick and Jimmy G for Kirk Cousins, I'm firing them on the spot. I don't know what Jed's going to do, but I'm firing them.
It's going to be it's just crazy to think about because you know it can happen, Grant.
I know it can. It's so not hard to find a quarterback like Kirk Cousins right now. It's not.
I know.
So, Kyle, if you're watching, don't do it. I'm talking directly to you. Don't do it. I know.
Now he's going to do it.
I know
now he's going to do it.
Just draft Kyle Trask in round 2. Same thing. Probably, except Trask is probably better. All right. Moving on. I haven't talked to you about the draft at all. Ryan is the man on the draft. He always scouts these guys like during the season. I still haven't gotten around to it. So which players in this top 15 do you feel are like can't miss? Who are your draft crushes? Because you always have interesting. Last year it was Tristan Wirfs. I remember that. You were like, this guy is great.
Yeah, Tristan Wirfs and Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, so you called that. So who are your draft crushes this year?
My draft crush this year is definitely Najee Harris, man. I think that guy's so underrated, bro. And like,
and he's underrated because he's a running back.
He's underrated for a lot of different reasons, right? But one, he's a running back, like you just pointed out. But two, people are knocking him for having tread on his tires. Well, if you look at past behavior to predict future behavior, Eddie George. You look at guys like Steven Jackson. You look at guys like D'Angelo Williams. You look at guys, How
about Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry. All these guys had tread on their tires. So to use that as determining factor on knocking the guy because he has tread on his tires, you're doing yourself a disservice because based on past behavior, that don't mean crap.
When I watched Alabama, just judging, like looking at the defense and kind of trying to sense what freaked them out the most. It seems like when you're facing Alabama's offense, Mac Jones is great. Devontae Smith is great, but the main problem is Najee Harris, and everything kind of works off of that. The fact that no one dude on a college defense really can tackle him. And these guys, like defenders, are legit afraid of him. Then the play action game works off of that. Jalen Waddle's a great player too, but I still feel like Najee Harris is the straw that stirs the drink at Alabama. If that, you know what I'm saying?
No, he is. I mean,
if he weren't there, it would be different.
If Najee Harris wasn't the running back, this offense would look vastly different because I believe Brian Robinson is the backup running back, and although he's a tough runner between the tackles, I don't see him being, the focal point of that offense. I think Najee Harris obviously brought more than just a north-south violent running style type of a game. He can obviously turn a 3-yard loss into a 3-yard gain, and he was really good as a dual threat.
He can catch
running back, catch and run player after the flat. So
yeah, I mean, it seems like. It's true. You shouldn't be drafting running backs in round one as a rule. But I think as an evaluator and as a drafter, you always got to be like, well, if there is a generational player, regardless of position, I can't just pass him up. If this Najee Harris is a future Hall of Famer, I'm not going to pass on him because it's round one and I could take some edge rusher who's not going to be a future Hall of Famer. So like if Bo Jackson's in the draft, do you take him in round one? Yeah. If it's Marcus Allen, yeah. If it's Derrick Henry, did Derrick Henry go too low? Should he have been a first round pick? Yeah. So in that sense, that's interesting. I don't know if I would take Najee Harris with the 12th pick, but again, you know this much better than me. And if you say this guy is your favorite player in the draft, I take that very seriously.
I just think at this point, when you look at how the draft board currently stands, Grant, and you look at the top of the draft, obviously there's a lot of moving parts because we don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson. But based on my current mock draft, and I've been doing my mock drafts starting since last year, you have a lot of these quarterbacks are going to be pushed up the board because of trades. And then when you get around where the Niners pick, Patrick Surtain's likely not going to be there because he's going to fall off anywhere from the Carolina Panthers pick down to the Denver Broncos and then obviously the Dallas Cowboys. They all haven't yet a cornerback. So when you look at it from that standpoint, and if you're GM John Lynch and you know that the edge rushing class is weak, you don't want to reach for an edge at 12. So your best bet would to be and do the right thing and draft the BPA in running back Najee Harris, because what he brings to the table is something that the 49ers do not have, and that's durability at the running back position. And when you take that into account, he also brings 1,000-yard rushing potential. We haven't had a 1,000-yard rushing potential player since Frank Gore left in 2014.
Yep, that's true. So who would you compare him to, and do you think he's like the best running back to come out of college since when?
I mean, I would compare him to Derrick Henry. I mean, that's my comp. Now, his ceiling, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Derrick Henry, but I see the similar skill sets as far as his game is concerned, what he brings to the table. Now, his floor, I mean, like I just said, he'll get 1,200 yards rushing easily. You just feed him the rock.
And isn't he pretty young? I mean, he's a true junior, right?
Yeah. He's a senior.
He's a senior?
No, you're right. He's a junior.
He was just in high school over here in Antioch like a few years ago. Yeah. When I watch him, it looks like he has terrific patience for a bit. He almost reminds me like a young Le'Veon Bell, but bigger and more violent.
Yeah. No, I think about, he was a senior because he went to the Senior Bowl, remember?
Okay.
He was a Senior Bowl. Okay. But no, that guy, he went to Antioch, man. And that guy's I've been watching him since high school, bro. That guy's a freaking. He played against my cousin at Deer Valley, bro, and like I was like, who is this kid? This kid's freaking balling, bro. Like, dude,
Do you think he'll be available at 12?
Oh, absolutely. I have him falling off in the 19 to 25 range. So if the Niners were to get him, they would trade back, just like my Justin Jefferson scenario on my draft cards last year. Trade back in the 19 to 25 range and pick him up, because you have guys. You have to be able to look at the draft board behind you too. You have guys like the Pittsburgh Steelers who need a running back. You'd be a perfect fit in their power run.
Oh my God!
And then you have.
Oh my God!
Right.
Yes.
So you look at that, and then you look at the New York Jets. Well, they pick 2 and they pick at 23. So if you go with Zach Wilson, you then find them a workhorse running back that Robert Saleh can use and take the pressure off Zach Wilson in the running game. Now you have 2 core foundational players you can work with for the future. So there's a lot of things moving parts here. They have to be able to not trade back far enough to where they know that Najee Harris is going to come off the board, but just low enough or high enough to where you can get him around that area.
This is why Ryan is my go-to guy on draft stuff. He's my go-to guy in general. So I just want to take this opportunity. Make sure you follow Ryan on Twitter at BeastRider and subscribe to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/BeastRider. I have to get a new YouTube address because mine's youtube.com/ and I want to be cool like you. So you'll have to show me how to do that. But hey, follow BeastRider because he's going to have all kind of great draft insights the next few months. You're going to definitely want to watch his stuff because I'm just going to be stealing from it the next few weeks and stuff to sound smart. Najee Harris, yeah, no one considers him because he's a running back. But what if he's the best what if he's the best player in the draft? Where would you rank him just on your big board, regardless of position?
Right now, I have him ranked number 4. I put it on my podcast, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy!"
1, 2, 3.
They know that's my draft question. I'm like, "Yeah."
Who's 1, 2, and 3?
Number 1's obviously Trevor Lawrence, and then obviously when you look at number 2, you're going to look at the wide receiver. So Devontae Smith would be 2nd, and then Jamar Chase, who didn't even play in 2020, would be 3rd, and then Najee Harris.
So you have Najee Harris above Penei Sewell?
Absolutely.
Wow. What do you see from Penei Sewell, real quick? Because that's my guy.
Yeah. So I did a podcast on that too. So, anyways, Penei Sewell, I like him. I like him a lot. Okay. He's good on his reach blocks. He'd be perfect. He's not scheme dependent. Compare a power run scheme or his own blocking scheme doesn't really make a difference. And he is a left tackle that you can work with for the foreseeable future. I have him going to the Cincinnati Bengals, mocked at number 5 to give Joe Burrow some help.
Everyone sees that, yeah.
But it's funny how I don't have him in the top 5 and have Najee Harris above him. But Penei Sewell, great in vertical pass sets, jump sets, angle sets, does it all. The only problem I see with Penei Sewell's game is he doesn't finish plays sometimes. He doesn't
work that nasty streak.
Yeah, he doesn't work his feet so much to the point where, like, especially against edge rushers, he allows him to win with momentum and he stops his feet. You need to keep your feet churning because if you stop your feet, then you lose leverage and then you get caught off balance, and then the edge rusher can then use your forward leverage against you and so forth with a rip pull or a swim move, whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of different things that Penei Sewell does well, but there are flaws in this game, just like with any prospect. But Penei Sewell, definitely a top 10 pick, if not a top 5 pick. For sure.
Well, look, I have a feeling Niner fans and pundits are going to start talking about Najee Harris the next couple of months because it's kind of the elephant in the room. And when they do, remember that Ryan brought him up because I wasn't thinking about Najee Harris. And he's definitely someone you got to consider because even though his position almost takes him off your radar, you gotta go back and be like, is this guy special, though? Is this guy better than whoever I'm going to take at 12? Because odds are he probably is. So that'll be a very interesting way to break down where you're picking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And the pro day
against Najee.
Yeah, the pro day is going to be crazy because pro day is where his stock's really going to rise. I mean, I can always foresee what's going to happen, usually more times than not. Mm-hmm. He's going to have like a 37 to 40 inch vertical, right? Mm-hmm. His broad jump's going to be in like the 126, 130 range.
He's going to run like a 4.5 flat.
Yeah, 4.5 flat. You're looking at a 4.5 flat guy.
At like 235. Yeah.
No, I would say 222, 227.
227.
I think he wants to come in a little bit lighter because what you want to do is you don't want to jeopardize your speed. Yes. And based on his physique, he's going to have a strong lower trunk. So when he takes off his shirt and does the 40, you're showing off your physique, but then you're also showing off your quads and your hamstrings. Sure. And for running backs, that's what you look for is the lower half, not so much the upper body strength, because obviously you want to keep your legs churning on initial contact. So when you put that all in together, you're going to see Alabama Pro Day where Najee Harris is going to be the talk of the town, and people will be like, "Oh man, should he be a top 15 pick?" It's all.
Remember when Darren McFadden was he the 4th pick in the draft?
Yes,
I remember I was talking to a coach about him, and he always was like, "Look at his legs, man. His bird legs. How do you draft a running back with bird legs in the top 5?" And that ultimately was the reason he didn't succeed. His legs, his lower half.
Right.
I seen thicker legs on a chair, Ryan.
Dude, I have.
That's Devontae Smith. Do you put Devontae Smith over Jamar Chase? And if so, why?
Yeah, it's a tough one. For the simple reason that he played last year with Jamar Chase. Obviously, he had the similar year back in 2019, setting SEC records and so forth with Justin Jefferson there. He also had a strong supporting cast, just like any SEC school. But what I see from Devontae Smith, I see the next Marvin Harrison.
Ooh. Does he have that speed? Because Marvin was fast.
Absolutely. Okay. Devontae Smith is the next Marvin Harrison. That's my comparison. So
the way he plays, I can see it. Only question is his speed. How fast do you think he is?
4.4.
I'm cool. Then if he's 4.4, I can see Marvin Harrison for sure. Because Marvin Harrison about 6'1", 175, right?
Yep. And he's really smart. He's savvy and he has good, strong work ethic. And the one thing that I've been told, and what a lot of people have been told, is his work ethic is bar none. So when you take that into account, the work ethic, you can disregard his frame because you know he's going to put in the work both on and off the football field to get stronger where he needs to get stronger at in all areas of his body.
And for the record, Ryan said his draft crush is Najee Harris to wrap this up. Yeah. But he did rank Devontae Smith ahead of him.
Now watch me be wrong.
I'm just saying. I love that because you're higher on Najee than most, but you're not putting him number 1. You're putting him 4 behind 2 wide receivers, 1 on his team, and Trevor Lawrence. I think that's reasonable. I think that's reasonable. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Jimmy Garoppolo because we never talk about him on my channel. The quarterback of the 49ers, Jimmy G. We always talk about what the Niners should do from the Niners' perspective. Should they keep him? Should they deal him? What about from Jimmy's perspective? What do you think is going through his head these days? Because he's not like he's on social media saying stuff like still here. He's just kind of laying back. What do you think he's thinking?
I mean, everyone has to think from from Jimmy Garoppolo's perspective. I don't think a lot of people are really taking that into account. Like anytime you're rumored to be in trade discussions for the second consecutive offseason, last year was Tom Brady, this year was Matthew Stafford, Deshaun Watson, you name it. And from a mental standpoint, because football is just as much mental as it is physical. And when you put that all in together, and then you know in the back of your mind that the team's trying to upgrade at the position, and even the national reporters are echoing the same analysis as we are. And based on what we're hearing, what kind of tone and what kind of locker room dynamic does that send to him? Because that's like, and I put this analogy in there, but it's kind of like going to the in-laws when you know they don't like you around the holidays, right? You go to Thanksgiving or Christmas and you step foot inside that door knowing that they don't like you and you have to stay calm, cool, and collected. Well, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, man, I have to be fake to these people. But at the same time,
I should just get a divorce.
You know, and the in-laws, you know, they don't like you. They're telling your wife to leave your butt. So like, what kind of, that's very toxic, right? And that's the same analogy when Jimmy Garoppolo steps foot into the locker room with GM John Lynch sitting there and Kyle Shanahan standing there. You walk in like, oh man, were they just talking about me? Right. And then you walk up to him, hey, what's going on?
What's up? I'm good. Oh, nothing. No, it's good. Like, okay, so you're not talking anymore because I'm here. All right, yeah.
So then it's like awkward, and you don't think in the back of his mind that he's not thinking that. I mean, you have to take the humanistic approach into this, right? Like we're all human. We all have feelings. We all have emotions, right? And to think that this is not affecting Jimmy Garoppolo, it's going to affect him mentally because any interception that he throws moving forward, he's going to look to Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan is going to give that look like he always does. Yeah. And then that's just going to compound the problem, knowing that you may not be his quarterback that he wanted anyways. You're just playing because you're damaged goods at this point, and they couldn't get Matthew Stafford or some other quarterback.
And you know it. And they've made it clear. It's like, yeah, we're fine with you. We can win with you even though you suck. Now, we can win with you even though you're not that good. We'll make you look better. Would we like to improve? Of course, because you're not that good. So how could you want to? The way I look at him is like, would he like to leave the Niners? Hell yes.
Yes.
It's not really up to him, though, and he knows it. He has no leverage. He's been hurt. So if he comes back, I mean, would he have incentive to play well? Yeah, to get off the team, to audition, to go somewhere else. I think that's basically his motivation to play for the Niners at this point is the better he plays, the quicker he gets the hell out of here.
Right.
I mean, he knows he's not Kyle Shanahan's type of guy, type of quarterback. So, okay, like now he's just in purgatory. He's just in jail. So what can he do? I don't know. I mean, he could do what Deshaun Watson's doing, but he's not doing that. And I think that's what a certain segment of the NFL likes about Jimmy Garoppolo is he's kind of a good soldier. He doesn't open his mouth. He says, yes, sir, no, sir. Even on the Niners, he's never complained about Kyle Shanahan, ever, publicly. So maybe that's his, brand.
I think it's more a testament to his being a true professional.
Yeah.
A lot of times people, players, they lash out at me or you or whoever, right? And they go that route.
Like who?
Like Eric Armstead or Javon Kinlaw calling me his biggest inspiration and then deleting the tweet, or Kerry.
I'll take that. I like that.
Funny. So I mean, it's just funny. But anyways, it's all in good fun. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to stay professional, right? And how do you do that? And Jimmy Garoppolo is a great job at doing that. George Kittle, another guy, great job at doing that. So when you have players like that, you kind of respect them a little bit more because they don't feel entitled, right? And I'm not saying the other players I just mentioned weren't entitled because they go on Twitter. I'm not saying that. I'm just speaking for Jimmy Garoppolo's point of view. You got to give credit where credit is due. And
remember Colin Kaepernick requested a trade? People don't remember that. Remember that?
Gosh, dude,
when was that? Remember that? It was 20.
We were in the 49ers media locker room when that happened. Or not media. Yeah, no media locker room. In our freaking workroom, dude. I remember.
It was before 2015, but it was before Tom Sula, the Tom Sula year started. Am I correct? You want to go to the Jets?
Or Broncos. Well,
you want to go to the Jets or the Broncos, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember that.
I have videos of that.
And I think a lot of players in the team were like, wait, you're the leader? You're our leader.
That's right.
And you're out.
Yeah.
Jimmy hasn't done that. He didn't exactly fight to come back from an injury, but we don't know how bad that injury was. I can't tell you whether he was malingering or not. Maybe he wasn't. He hasn't said, I want out of this place. A lot of quarterbacks would. Kaepernick did. So I think Jimmy gets credit for that.
Yeah. I like Jimmy. I mean, he's just stuck between a rock and a hard place, bro. And like I said, like people need to take it for what it's worth. Like he's human, just like all of us, and he has emotions. And probably behind closed doors, when he's talking to his family, it has to be weighing heavily on him. And how can you have any type of success in 2021 knowing that you're going to be replaceable or the team's trying to replace you? And I get the iron sharpens iron, Jim Harbaugh mentality, but at the end of the day, there's a certain way of doing certain things, I would say. And the way that Jimmy G is handling it is very,
Well, I think the tough thing for Jimmy is he knows, or he thinks he knows how Bill Belichick feels about him.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, Bill Belichick loves me. If I were in New England, I'd be happy. The coach would be in my corner. I'd be successful. I'm out here. I don't even know Kyle that well. And he doesn't like me. Like, can I just go back to New England where I'm wanted? And it's like, no offense, Kyle, you might be really great, but I'm going to go with Bill Belichick and his 6 rings, all right? Or 8 rings, counting the stuff that he had in New York. I think it's tough. I would feel that way. I mean, if the greatest coach of his generation thought I was the truth and I got shipped away because of the salary cap and some other guy was like, hey, man, you're not that good. I'm going to be like, well, Bill Belichick disagrees with you. My dad disagrees. My dad says I'm great. My dad says I'm special, okay? So until he thinks I'm not special, I want to go back to where I came from. That's how I would think, man. Screw you. And the way I look at it is he calls Kyle, when he refers to Kyle in a press conference, it's Kyle. When he talks about Bill Belichick in a press conference, it's coach.
Right.
I think it's going to be hard for Jimmy to ever see things Kyle's way when he feels that Bill Belichick has a different perspective.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. So, hey, Jimmy, good for you. I think I make fun of Jimmy all the time because it's my job, and he's the quarterback of the Niners, and he's not that great, but he's a nice guy. He's a pro. He's never done anything to me. I mean, I've done stuff to him, and he's had any opportunity. He'd be justified to take a shot back at me, and I would take it.
Yeah.
He would never. And if I saw him in the locker room, he would honestly be above it. He'd be like, "Hey, Grant, how are you?" I'd be like, "Man, I feel bad." Jimmy's a really nice guy, and the Niners haven't really given him the best treatment, even if they are right to want to move on from him. So I hope he sticks to his guns and it works out for him, even though he has $100 million, and I usually don't pull for people like that. You know what? It's okay. It's all right. Last one. This is an interesting one. Do you think John Lynch is on the hot seat right now?
Yes, absolutely.
Why? Explain this.
Okay, anytime you miss at the top of the draft with your first 2 picks, you should be on the hot seat. Because
You're talking what?
I'm talking back in 2017 when they reached for Solomon Thomas instead of going after Jamal Adams like I told them to. And then
Or literally anyone. Christian McCaffrey, Marshawn Lattimore, the 2 quarterbacks who were pretty good. I mean, they could have taken a name out of a hat. Keep going.
Right. And then Alvin Kamara, I put out my Twitter yesterday. I said, pick him at 34. What do they do? Trade up for Reuben Foster. Okay, cool. And what saved him in that 2017 draft class was who?
Kittle.
Who saved him in that 2018 draft or 2017 draft class?
Kittle.
George Kittle and DJ Jones, the hidden gems. So then you roll it back the following year, and then they reach for who? Right tackle Mike McGlinchey, and who they reach for again? Dante Pettis. How are those guys doing in your first 2 picks in consecutive years? So now you have 4 picks.
That's 4, yeah.
Right, 4 picks, and it's like, okay, they really haven't panned out, bro. And then 2019 they did good.
It looked good until he tore his ACL. It looks bad that Brian Burns is such a freaking stud, and everyone kind of knew it. Yep, that's rough.
2019 was good. I mean, I give him a grade A for that. But I mean, then he reverts back in 2020, reaching for Javon Kinlaw instead of taking, like I said, Tristan Wirfs.
The problem with 2019 is that's their best draft, and the top 2 picks, Bosa and Debo, missed a lot of games already. That's the problem. Their best picks have injury issues.
Yeah. So you take that all into,
in my opinion, it was a miss unless he becomes something he's not right now, which is a pass rusher. That's the word.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
But to John Lynch's credit, he did get some free agent signings, right? He brought in Kyle Juszczyk, but then he also signed guys like D Ford. I don't know about the D Ford one. I mean, yeah, he got him to the Super Bowl. Emmanuel Sanders making some trades. Got Kayvon Williams. Elvis Dumerville was a great pickup.
I wasn't putting D Ford in the good category.
Veteran present. Yeah. So, I mean, he does do well with that and picking up undrafted rookie free agents like, Nick Mullins, Matt Breida, Kendrick Bourne, guys like these. So he does a really good job. However, anytime you trade DeForest Buckner, you should be on the hot seat right away. And the reason I say that is because it had a Buckner domino effect, as I like to call it. And when you have a Buckner domino effect, you can see why I gave him a D grade for 2020. You just look at it, right? In the 2020 class, like it was just really, really bad, like what he did, right? So he picked up Kerry Hyder Jr., right? Great 1-year pickup in a contract year guy, right? But is he going to return? We don't know. And then you look at the trades that he made, right?
Jason Verrett, great guy. Is he going to return? We don't know.
Trent Williams is going to
return? We don't know.
Exactly. We don't know. Yeah. And then you look at the draft. Yeah, they should have took Tristan Wirfs. They did get Brandon Ayuk, which I said they didn't have to trade up for him.
Way too much money to Eric Armstead.
And there you go. So it's like the domino effect of
drafting Javon Kinlaw instead of Tristan Wirfs.
That.
Hold on. And we didn't mention the biggest one.
Right. And then you take it a step further, right? Look at all the bad free agent signings with defensive front 7 players. I would say D Ford's a bad signing. I would say Eric Armstead's a bad signing. I would say Quan Alexander's a bad signing. I would say Malcolm Smith's a bad signing.
Right.
That's
Hold on, but we still haven't mentioned the biggest mistake he made. Not signing Tom Brady. Are you kidding? He gave away a Super Bowl. Tom Brady was like, yo, let me get my 7th Lombardi here. I'll get my 7th. You'll get your 6th. We'll all be happy. I'll be able to see my parents in San Mateo. We'll just be, nope. We like Jimmy G more than you. That to me, it's like, look, from Jed York's perspective, I'm Jed York right now. I forgave you for passing on Patrick Mahomes. All right. I forgave you for passing on Deshaun Watson. I let that slide. And then when Tom Brady came to you and said, I want to play for you, you don't even have to draft me. You passed on him. I can't let that slide. That's 3 strikes and you're out. And what I want to say to you is all the points you make, I agree with. The question I have is, why do you put this on Lynch? Just because he's the general manager and title?
Yes. Because at the end of the day, he's the one that ultimately can say yes or no. And I know he works with Kyle Shanahan, and Kyle Shanahan has a strong or just as much, if not more of an input. But at the end of the day, GM John Lynch is the general manager.
Right. I agree. I just feel like even though he has the title, I think Kyle Shanahan has the last say on everything. And that John Lynch is really more there to explain Kyle Shanahan's decisions to the public than to make decisions. So here's the thing. If they fire John Lynch, which is possible, I mean, they're going to scapegoat someone and it won't be Kyle.
It won't be Kyle.
It won't be Kyle. So what you're saying is John Lynch on the hot seat? I think he might be for the reasons you pointed out, because someone's going to have to take the fall if they have another losing season. It's not going to be Kyle. All I'm saying is if that's what happens, I believe it's a scapegoat move that it won't fix anything. And all it'll do is give the person making the decisions, Kyle, even more power. So the bad decisions, I think, will actually increase because you're not taking the problem away. I don't think the problem is John Lynch. I think the problem is Kyle and his father, Mike. They're the one making the executive decisions. But look, that's not the question here. The question is John Lynch, is he on the hot seat? And I think you're probably right. John, if you're watching, be careful. They're circling around your job. They just promoted your assistant, Adam Peters, to assistant GM. That's scary. So, yeah, it seems like you're one more bad season away from getting scapegoated. Good luck. I'm just saying, Jed, if you're watching, don't fall for it. It's not John's fault. It's Kyle's fault. It's Mike Shanahan's fault. John Lynch is there to explain their stuff. Unless I'm wrong, unless you can show me that it was John Lynch who was like, no, we're taking Solomon Thomas. No, we're taking Mike McGlinchey. I don't see it. I just don't. But you're right. He's the general manager, man.
He's the general manager.
If you don't want someone else's decisions to get passed off on you, quit and go back to being a media guy.
Right.
Because that's what they're doing. They're passing off the Shanahan's decisions onto him. And they get to take credit for the good ones. Peters gets credit for the good ones. And all the bad ones, it's like, well, John Lynch didn't have any experience. What do you expect?
It's just tough because I did give him passing grades, like really good grades. Like he got a B+ his first year. I gave him a B his second year and a B his third year. But, the Buckner effect, I just gave him a D, not simply just because of that move, but look at the domino effect of compounding that move by reaching for need, taking Kinlaw instead of taking Tristan Wirfs, and then hitting the panic button. So then you have to mortgage your future by giving him a 5th and 3rd round pick for a 1-year rental in Trent Williams, which you already did 1 year prior, getting a half-year rental in Emmanuel Sanders. So now you lose a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round draft pick. Then you have no choice but to trade back one spot, let Tristan Wirfs go off the board because you need to recoup draft capital from the Emmanuel Sanders deal. It's a domino effect.
It is a domino effect. And it all started because they traded up for Dante Pettis. Multiple picks to move up for Pettis. It didn't work out. Now to fix that problem, you trade multiple picks for Emmanuel Sanders. You don't keep him. Now to replace him, you trade multiple picks for Brandon Ayuk. And you end up spending 7 assets to fix a problem you created by trading it for Dante Pettis. Look, when you break down John Lynch's resume, whether it's all him or not, it's got his name on it. It's not good. And I really like John Lynch. He's given me a one-on-one on Periscope.
I like him.
Guy. My dad knows him. I would never want to run him out of town because honestly, he's, I think, what makes the Niners organization fun to work. Like, I like being there now. When Balky was there, I always felt like they were trying to pull my credential. John Lynch, I don't think he would let that happen. I actually think he's a good guy, and I don't want to run him out of town. I like John Lynch, and if they do scapegoat him, I'll feel bad because I don't think he's making these decisions. But I see what you're saying, man. And John, from a self-preservation standpoint, you got to listen to Ryan because he's right. And you got to understand where you stand. I'm sure he already knows. That's the problem. I'm sure he already knows. And the fact that he doesn't tweet anymore, hardly. He used to be Mr. Niner on Twitter. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
He was gone. And I think his attitude is, you know what? I'm not promoting you guys anymore. I'm in the Hall of Fame. You guys don't want me here. I'm going to collect a few more checks because, Jed, you're not getting off that easy. You're going to pay me 5, 10, maybe 15 million more dollars, and then I'll leave. All right? That's how I would. That's my attitude. It would be my attitude if I was him.
Yeah, and it is sad, like you said. Like, I do like John Lynch too. I mean, we both know him personally, but at the end of the day, there has to be a scapegoat. And ultimately, if it's going to come down to it, Grant, when you look at it from a value standpoint, Kyle Shanahan still calls the play on the offense side of the football. He's not going anywhere.
And I think it's pretty clear that the organization values Adam Peters over Lynch.
You think so? I
do, because the way I look at it is, I think they felt John Lynch was like a necessary evil. I'm saying they, as in Mike and Kyle.
Right.
If it was their attitude, if it was up to them, Kyle would have gotten the head coach job and the general manager job at 37. Mm-hmm. That's what Mike eventually got in Denver. Full autonomy. He was the original Bill Belichick, right? Full autonomy, and that's what the Shanahans want. And he couldn't get that in 2017 because he was 37, and it would have looked bad, I think, for Jed York to just turn the team over. So they had these figureheads in place. He didn't remember they had a search for general managers, guys who were like respected number 2 dudes at good organizations. And Kyle didn't like any of them. Why? Because they want input. He picked a broadcaster. Why? Because he didn't have any input. He basically hired Lynch. And I think he's like, well, now I'm 41. I've been to another Super Bowl. I got the 6-year extension. You got a 5-year extension. I don't need you anymore. I don't. You bring nothing to the table. Adam Peters is more helpful. People trust me in the Bay Area. Let me just be the general manager now. I think there's something to that, which is too bad.
Yeah, I agree.
But we're going deep conspiracy theory here. But as soon as the Niners gave Kyle a longer extension than John, that was all you needed to know. That shifted the power dynamic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude.
Well, those are all the topics we have. I'm out of stuff to talk about unless you got anything else you want to say.
No, we are good, bro. Thank you for
Of course, man. We got to keep them leaving. We got to keep them wanting more. You can't just give them everything, But 45 minutes, we got 500 viewers right now. This was very successful. Thanks so much for watching. People saying keep going. Nah. We'll be back next week. We're going to be, if it's cool with Ryan, Wednesdays at 11 from now on.
Yep.
The reason we're not doing it Wednesday this week is I'm going to do a dry run of taking my dad home from the rehab facility tomorrow. I take him home on Friday. I got to go tomorrow and learn how to take him home. So that's why we're not doing it. But it's going to be next week, me and Ryan. And you should watch this because this is going to be some must-watch stuff before the draft, all season, really. And subscribe to Ryan if you haven't already. I've told you to do it 4 times now. Don't make me mad. All right, I'll find you. Okay? Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. Have a good one, man.
All right, peace.
Peace.
Out.